we owed like a year's rent on a house. So I come out of high school, and here we got a house where we're going to get thrown out of, and he's not working, and my mother was working, and she was working nights. So I went and got a job in a paper mill just to, try to take over the rent. And I had them take out each week to get paid on a weekly basis. Take out each week, take out a month rent, and we'll catch it up in a year or two. So we did. We got it caught up, and I graduated from high school in that house. And like I said, I graduated. I got the work job in the mill to pay that back rent, back electricity. Got it all caught up, and by then my brother Jack had graduated before me. He left home. He went to live in New York State with my grandmother. He didn't like the idea of living with the old man anymore. They had a bunch of arguments, and he left. My brother Pat had left years before that. He was raised by my grandmother out in New York State. So I was the last male member of the family that stayed at home. And we paid the rent up and got all caught up. And one Saturday night, my mother didn't work on Saturday night, so she cooked a nice meal for us on Saturday night. Me and my four sisters and my mother and dad were sitting at a table. And he was drinking. He'd been drinking all day. I don't really. He got money from my mother. I guess he would beg her for money, and she'd give him money to go drink and come back and be abusive. And that one Saturday night, we're sitting there, and he said to my mother, he said, "Look at that buck." And he pointed at me. He's eating that food like he paid for it. Yeah. You ever get so mad you see red? I had a red blanket come down like this, and I says, "Whew." I just. It was a very confusing what happened next. I don't know. I remember going across the table after him, and I got a hold of him, and the back door was open. There was a screen door on the back of the door, and I just put him through the screen door. Well, grabbed him again and threw him down the stairs. I said, "Out, stay out. Don't you ever come back in here again." I told my mother, I said, "You take him back. I'm leaving. You, four daughters, and that drunk. You don't take him back." She never did. Never did. I saw him once after that. Only once. And that was at my brother's funeral. This was probably a year and a half later. My brother was in the Navy, home on furlough, auto accident. And my dad went to Pennsylvania, live with his sister in Pennsylvania. After him and I had to fight, and I'm in the funeral home. I'm by myself, and he come in and knelt beside me. He says, "It's pretty tough, ain't it?" I said, "You son of a bitch, you don't belong here. You drove him out of the house." I said, "You don't belong here. Get away from me now." That's the last time I talked to him. He left. I never saw him again. And no, he died 8 years later. 8 or 9 years later. A lonely man. A lonely, lonely man. But during my time, because of him and the lack of compassion, the physical and the mental abuse, I had gotten a job, gone back to school, went to a place called Springfield Technical Institute for learning electronics and things like that. Went nights whenever I could, try to learn something. The jobs I had in my lifetime, I learned a lot. The things I've done in my lifetime, I've learned to overcome a lot of hardships. I was never faced with anything that I couldn't handle because of that. I was offered jobs that every time I had a job, I would be offered jobs that would be very, how do you want to say it? kind of challenging. And I had the attitude in my life: never refuse a job because it might be, a little bit of a challenge. Take it and beat it and do it. And I've been very fortunate, very lucky. I mean, I've gone from into all business. Did okay, you know, and well, it's been very. Can you break it for a second?
Sure.
It's